Combining like terms. Something that 6th grade is actually doing right now. B is not like C. That's like comparing apples and oranges. X is not like Y. But what's even more important here is you have F squared and F, and those are different terms. They are not like terms. Okay? So you cannot combine F squared and F. So on the first one, 12b would combine with minus 12b, and what would happen? Cancels out. Then we have 13c plus 10c, 23c, plus 8. So when you write this, you will start with any term that has a variable versus the constant. The constant will come last. When we have multiple variables, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So what will go first in this case? X. So if I have 19x and negative 5x, what does that make? 14x. 12y and 13y makes, and notice when I'm circling these terms to identify my like terms, I'm including the sign that's happening before the number. Okay? And then last we have plus 75. Now when we write, whereas we were alphabetical in this case, both of these have F's, so we're going to start with the highest degree. When I say degree, I mean the exponent value of the term. So F squared has a degree of 2. 3F has a degree of 1. This one has a degree of what? 1. And what's the degree of 4F squared? 2. So if I combine my F squareds, 5F squared. And why is it not F to the 4th? Because it's not being multiplied. Exponent does not change. So minus 3F makes negative 6F. And we would have plus 12 minus 14, so we have minus 2. So today we are starting our talk about polynomials. So previously all we've been talking about are monomials, so singular terms. Polynomials have multiple terms. So in this case, we started with a polynomial that had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms. How many terms did we have when we ended? 2. How many terms did we have here when we ended? 3. Okay. So a polynomial is the addition or subtraction of monomials. So is this a polynomial? Yes. Yes, this is a polynomial. Okay. What is the degree of this polynomial? Remember that the degree is the highest exponent value. 4. Is this a monomial, a binomial, or a trinomial? How do you know it's a trinomial? Because there are 3 terms. So this is a trinomial. If I were to write this in standard form, the correct math grammar would be start with the highest degree first. So we would write 4x to the 4th, and then we'd go in decreasing degree value. Minus 2x squared plus 8. Your constant will always come last. Okay, when you have variables, your constant will come last. Now, we said the degree of this is 4. Because x is the only variable you see here, and the exponent of that variable is 4. But what if I had something 6x squared y to the 3rd? What is the degree of this monomial? You would have to add the exponents to the variables. So the degree of this is 5. Because 2 plus 3 is 5. Something you're going to hear me say a lot in the next 4 weeks and for a long time thereafter is when we look for the leading coefficient. So I just want us to make sure that we know that the leading coefficient is the coefficient at the beginning when we're in standard form. So this one right here is not a polynomial because, what do we see here? A negative exponent. And because that's a negative exponent, this would be 7 over a to the third plus 9b. And because this is the quotient of two monomials. So this is not a polynomial. Go to IXL Z1, spend like 4 minutes, try and get up to a 50. Some of you will get to an 80 and that's great. So keep doing that. Adding polynomials. So today is really about doing basic operations with polynomials. When you are adding polynomials, you're just combining like terms. So we're combining like terms. That means we have to see things that are similar and combine them. So if I've got 3p squared and I'm adding it with p squared, what would we write? 4p squared. Minus 2p minus 7p makes minus 9p. And 3 plus 7. So notice I'm still circling sign with the term, like plus 7. I don't just say 7. I don't say just 7p because it's a negative 7p because it's got a minus in front of it. Yes? You with me? Okay. Try these two. Lies. All right. Middle one. What do you think should come first? I heard a lot of 10xy. That sounds great. You know why? Why would xy come before x or y? Because it has a higher degree. Thank you for using the vocabulary. xy has a degree of 2 because we would add the exponents. So that would come first, 10xy. Now, x and y have the same degree, so how do we decide what comes next? The alphabet. So x comes next. So what will I write? Plus 5x. And then last, plus 2y. All right. Now we have x squared, xy, y squared. Everything has a degree of what? Everything has a degree of 2. So how do I decide what comes first? Alphabet. So what comes first? X squared or xy? X squared. Because it's just x. Okay. So x squared, we've got 2x squared and minus 6x squared. What do we get? Negative 4x squared. Then we have our 5xy minus xy, so we get plus 4xy. And when we add our y squareds together, we get plus 6y squared. What is my leading coefficient of the first problem? What's my leading coefficient here? And my leading coefficient here? Negative 4. You can subtract polynomials by doing the same, except you'd have to distribute the negative. So for some students, it helps if you rewrite your terms after you distribute the negative. So nothing will change for the first term. These parentheses for the first term mean nothing. So I will have 8x squared minus 4x minus 3. And then for the second term, when I distribute the negative, it changes the sign of everything inside. So what should I write? Plus 2x plus x squared minus 5. So after I combine my like terms, what will I have? 8x squared plus x squared will make 9x squared minus 2x because, and then minus 8. So the same for the first term, for the first group. And the second, you're going to change all the signs because you're distributing the negative. So make sure you know what the sign is because that's going to change your answer, right? So here, after I do that, what's my first term? 4x squared plus x squared is 5x squared. 6xy minus 2xy. 2y squared. 5y squared? 7y squared. Okay, try these two. Okay, who's got the first one? The ones with the H's and the J's and the K's. Trevor. What about the last one here? Cooper.
17xy.
Great. Questions on that? The number one mistake that students make with finding perimeter of a rectangle is they just add two sides. Okay? So how many sides does a rectangle have? 4. So you have a couple choices. You can add these two and then double it. Or you can just simply say, okay, if this side is 3a minus 4a squared plus 5, then this side is 3a minus 4a squared plus 5. And if this side is 6 plus 2a squared, then this side is 6 plus 2a squared. So what do you think? What's my first term? Negative 4a squared, because 2a squared plus minus 4a squared plus 2a squared, those all kind of cancel out, and then we've got minus 4a squared. Second term in my polynomial. Got 3a plus 3a, so we get plus 6a. And then 6 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 is 22. What happens if we have a triangle and I give you the perimeter, but I want you to find the measure of the third side? So we're going to have to subtract. You can, however, before you subtract one and then the other, you could combine these two and subtract once. Do you get what I'm saying by that? You can take the perimeter, 10x plus 5y, and subtract the combined total of these two sides. What's the combined total of these two sides? Now, someone in first period asked, do I have to have these parentheses? And I said, if you're writing out your number sentence, yes, because otherwise you would minus the 8x, but then you'd add the 3y. But this minus tells me I have to subtract both. So 10x minus 8x is 2x, and 5y minus 3y is 2y. So that last side is 2x plus 2y. And you can check and you can say, okay, well 2x plus 5x plus 3x is 10x. 4y plus 2y minus y is 5y. Okay. What we've talked about in this entire unit about laws of exponents, and what we've just talked about now about adding and subtracting polynomials, to multiply a polynomial by a monomial. First, things you know that are not different that you've been doing since the 6th grade. You can distribute a constant. If I distribute, what would my polynomial be then? 20a plus 15. So you can distribute that negative c. Negative c times 11c, negative 11c, negative c times negative 4, plus 4c. That's with a monomial times a binomial. You can distribute this monomial to more than two terms. It just goes to everything. X times 2x squared will make 2x to the third. X times 5x would make that minus 5x squared. Plus what? And you can distribute a monomial with a coefficient and variable. 2y times y? 2y squared. Minus? Any questions on any of those examples before we move on? All right, try these three. Okay, who's got the first one? Raise your hand. Cal. Great. Questions? Who's got the middle one? Raise your hand. Jonathan.
15x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x.
And who is brave and has the third one? Leah.
7c to the 4th minus 14c to the 3rd plus 35c.
That was perfect. You skipped the step that I expected you to say. Right? She just went and she put it in standard form. So I assume that you did get 35c minus 14c cubed plus 7c to the 4th. And then you were like, hey, I need to put it in standard form. And she rewrote it in this form. Awesome job. Okay, questions on that? Any questions there? Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. So on these, on some of these, most of these, you might need to change the order. So if I get negative 6x squared plus 14x cubed, we need to write it in standard form. So we'd want our highest degree first. So in that case, it's 14x to the 3rd minus 6x squared. In this case, I don't think we'll have to rewrite the order. What do you think this one is? xy squared plus x times z. And then over here, if I look inside my parentheses and everything's in the correct order there, then when I distribute, everything will most likely stay in that order. So distributing, what's our first term? Negative 10x to the 4th. Wonderful. Next one. Perfect. And our last term? Plus 20x. Okay. Last thing that's going to happen is sometimes you got things inside parentheses and they'll get distributed, and then you have things outside and you'll have combined like terms. Or in this case, you'll have to distribute twice. So if I distribute, I get negative 6y squared plus 8y, but then I still have this plus 7y over here, right? So when I simplify that, I get negative 6y squared plus 15y. What did you have after you distributed 6t?
12t squared
12t squared
minus 18t.
minus 18t. And then we distribute the negative 5, we get negative 10t squared,
Minus 45t.
45t plus 15. So combine like terms. 12t squared minus 10t squared, 2t squared. Negative 18t minus 45t, negative 63t, and plus 15.